With the fate of the virtual console being more or less up in the air, how do you plan on playing your retro games on the go? I know it's the question on everybody's mind. But wouldn't it be great to have a machine right in your back pocket that is loaded up with your favorite bits of gaming nostalgia? You can have your entire NES library in the palm of your hand. So here's some of the best ways to make that a reality, with a little help from our friend Izzy, who is somewhat of an aficionado on the subject. Or a psychopath, depending on how you look at it.
Whatever, Bob. Just because I bought a few emulation devices doesn't mean I'm a psycho. You're a psycho. Oh my god, I knew it.
Warning! Only download games that you already own. It's very not nice of you otherwise. We clear on that? Alright, good. Now, there are a few different ways that you can do this. There are devices that allow you to just load a bunch of games onto. There are devices that just straight up play old cartridges. And there are devices like the Switch and the 3DS that allow you to pay to download retro games, but not every game is within their library. The latter is probably the easiest choices, but you're gonna have a much smaller library and it's no fun to talk about, so we're just gonna skip right over those. I'm sure that once Switch Online comes out, Nintendo's Netflix-style retro game service will be the easiest, hassle-free, and most legal option available.
Yeah, about the Switch Online, I got a lot of flack for a video where I was, let's say, less than optimistic about the Switch Online. A lot of people took me to task in the comments of that video, saying that I'm probably just misinterpreting what Nintendo said, what they're going to actually deliver come September is going to be better than what they're announcing right now. I'm still a little disappointed. We waited another year for this thing to come out, right? It was supposed to come out fall last year. They had one more year to work on this, and this is all they showed us, a couple of Netflix-style NES games. Voice chat through a phone, still. The other thing is that a lot
It literally says right here, Izzy interjects with something about Switch Online. There may be a back and forth.
That's the best I can expect.
One device that I used to rock as my daily driver, so to speak, was a DS Lite with an R4 cart. The R4 cartridge is an aftermarket, sort of black market device that allows you to run downloaded software. This device allows you to play downloaded games, including DS games. Again, I don't condone or even recommend playing games that you don't own, especially if it's for a console they still produce games for. They do make an R4 equivalent for the 3DS. It's harder to come by, it's more expensive, and the games are a lot bigger. So overall, it's more of a pain in the ass than the regular R4 for the DS. So if you just want a device solely dedicated towards retro gaming, a DS Lite with an R4 isn't a bad option. You can still get one for pretty cheap. Plus, I love the form factor. It's the sleekest, most compact DS in the entire DS family. Setup is very easy. You just drop all of the files onto your micro SD card, you drop the necessary emulators, and you drop in all of the games that you want, and you're good to go. Just make sure you're getting good emulator files, because some of them will have weird glitches like this. If this happens to you, just delete it and drop in another emulator. There are plenty of them out there on the internet. I think the reason it feels so great is because you're playing your retro library on an official piece of Nintendo hardware, so it physically feels right at home. Just ignore the fact that you're running it through a super not official game cartridge.
Like Bob, I love the form factor of the DS Lite. I still think, to this day, it's one of the most beautiful devices Nintendo has ever put out. And, like Bob, I had a flash card, though not the R4. I have here the M3 Simply, which, from what I could tell from half remembering what I read online at the time, it's kind of a hardware clone of the R4. It works basically the same way for all intents and purposes. Download a bunch of ROMs, load them on an SD card, put it in, and play away. Words cannot describe how much I loved this thing back in the day. Hell, I still love it. And maybe the reason I'm so attached to the 3DS still in 2018 is because I don't want the DS line as a whole to die.
Maybe you weren't a DS boy. Maybe you were a PSP bro. That does say a lot about you. Lucky for you, there is a way to hack the PSP, and it's pretty easy too. Izzy has a lot more to say on that.
Now the PSP, boy, I am a massive fan of it. It's no surprise. I have 3 of them. This one, the white PSP Go, is a little bit harder to find. I paid a little bit more than I paid on the other 2, but I love this thing to death. Up until my hacked PSP, emulators were this thing that I only get to play when I'm at home in front of a computer. Being able to carry my Super Nintendo games wherever I went, right there in my pocket. All the games I used to love back in the day, and the ones I couldn't experience because I failed to convince my parents to buy them for me for Christmas. The PSP, though lately climbing in value, is still at a very affordable price if portable emulation is your thing. Now, granted, it's not going to be the best portable emulation device because it lacks some buttons for inputs, say a second analog stick or L2 and R2 shoulder buttons. So playing PS1 games, it's doable, but you know, you need to work around some issues. And you're only really going to be emulating right up to the PS1. It does a really good job at emulating the PS1, not so much for anything after that, like say the N64. So if that's your jam, the PSP won't be the best option.
Hyperkin makes really great retro game consoles. They make the Retron 5, which allows you to play Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced, Super Nintendo, NES, Famicom, Super Famicom, Genesis, Mega Drive, and Master System games. But that's a home console. This video's on portable stuff. So I wanted to focus on the Superboy S by Hyperkin. This device allows you to play actual full-size SNES cartridges on the go. The S version allows for Super Famicom games too. You can even plug in extra controllers and plug this into a TV if you wanted to. So yes, this is a home/portable console hybrid. It's pretty damn cool. The only downside is that you need the cartridges with you. That has its ups and downs. On one hand, you're getting a legal, authentic experience with the actual hardware, and on the other hand, you have to carry all these game cartridges with you. Realistically, you'd probably only have one of these game cartridges with you at a time. There's no way you're carrying around too many of these. Other potential downsides are that the cartridges on mine have to be tilted back or else it feels like you're gonna break the contacts. And the screen, while beautiful, is widescreen. That was a weird choice for a console that just plays SNES games, which are traditionally 4:3, not 16:9. So yeah, this might not be for everybody, but I thought it was at least worth mentioning. And if it is interesting to you, we can't talk about the Superboy without talking about the original Superboy, the Sega Nomad. All the way back in 1995, Sega made a portable version of the Sega Genesis called the Nomad. This even had an S-Video port and a port for a second player, so yes, another portable/home console hybrid. They were way ahead of their time. Maybe a bit too ahead of their time. Between the horrid screen with terrible viewing angles and this weird motion blur, the battery life, the ridiculous form factor, it was really something jaw-dropping at the time, but now, I'm afraid it's just nothing more than a novelty.
You know what? I'm good. Thank you.
Are you sure?
I'm good.
The most convenient option for you is probably to have all of your games downloaded onto one device so you can always have your game library with you. Of course, these are games that you already own. There are a slew of devices out there right now, but be careful. Most of them come with games preloaded on them and don't allow you to upload your own games.
And this is pretty much an emulation machine. I forgot the game systems it's supposed to be able to
I don't think it
play.
says.
No. 900,000 in one random special.
Oh, I like that. I'll take the random special, please.
Hell yeah.
Now, if you want to get serious about portable emulation, the GPD XD is the absolute best way to go. In case you're not familiar with this device, I've done a couple of videos on it. It's essentially an Android tablet shaped like a Nintendo 3DS XL. So you have all the benefits of this form factor and the benefits of a very flexible OS like Android. Android emulates basically everything, and it has enough power under the hood to emulate those things really well, right up to the Dreamcast. Now, the Dreamcast wasn't my cup of T, so I don't play it as much, but the ones I tried run really, really well. One cool thing about the GPD XD is that it has a mini HDMI out, so you can plug this in to a television set. Television set? Who the fuck says that? The only problem I have with the GPD XD, well, it's two problems actually. The D-pad is kind of mushy. So to me, I play mostly PS1 games on this thing, so it doesn't affect me. But if you're into, say, 16-bit fighting games, this is gonna be a source of frustration. The other thing, and this is like a weird quirk of the motherboard they use on this thing, you cannot charge it using a charger that outputs more than 5 volts. So say if you have a Samsung phone and they have, I think it's the feature's called Supercharge or Quick Charge. I'm not a Samsung guy, so I don't know. But basically if your charger outputs more than 5 volts, like usually 9 for these phones that charge super fast, it's gonna fry this thing. So the safest way to charge the GPD XD is either with the charger that it comes bundled with, or one that you know only outputs 5 volt, or if you're like me, super paranoid, on your computer. That's the safest way to charge it, though it's gonna take forever to fully top this thing up.
The GPD XD is surprisingly easy to set up, especially considering I've had emulators run on Android phones before, and they're typically a huge pain in the ass. Some games work, some don't. The controllers only work with some emulators. All I did to set up the GPD XD is toss my game library on there using Android file transfer, download Matsu, configure the controllers for each game system, and you're good to go. No hassle whatsoever. If you want to take the extra time and make things nice and pretty, look into Izzy's setup. This has by far the best emulation out of any of the devices shown. The GPD XD is way powerful enough to play any game you throw at it, even N64 games with no noticeable bugs. My only gripe with it is that it's a tad expensive. $279 on Amazon makes sense for what it is, but for that price you can almost buy a Switch and you can play newer games and Nintendo's classic library when that comes out in September. So the GPD XD is no doubt a specialty item for specialty people. I think the absolute best way to emulate retro games is just a laptop. OpenEMU on Mac is the absolute best all-in-one emulator I have ever used. RetroArch on Windows can go. Let's go. It compiles your library for you, downloads the cover art as best it can. The whole UI is really pretty. The way you configure controllers is super easy. Once you start getting into the nuances like downloading different emulator cores, that's where things start to fall apart for OpenEMU. But for unmatched ease of use, OpenEMU comes out on top. Also, my little MacBook runs the Dolphin emulator surprisingly well. Nothing like a quick game of Sonic Adventure 2 Battle while you're on the train. If you already have a DS Lite or a PSP and you don't really care about playing N64 games or PlayStation games, then you should look into the R4 or the PSP hack. They're so cheap and easy, and the hardware is already so good that I wouldn't say that it's worth it to spend all that extra money on a GPD XD. However, if you don't already have a DS Lite or a PSP and you want a device specifically for playing retro games, definitely check out the GPD XD. Not only is it a great piece of hardware whose sole purpose is playing retro games, it also supports N64 and PlayStation games. And it runs on Android, so when the Steam Link app comes out, you'll be able to stream your PC games right to your GPD XD. Of course, if you're a narc and you want to stay 100% legit, check out the Superboy. We made this video assuming that you at the very least know how to transfer files from your computer. These things don't come with instructions on how to get your pirated games onto them, so you're gonna have to look that stuff up, and me and Izzy are not gonna help you. So don't DM me, don't email me, leave me the f alone, all right? All right. So what do you guys think about all of these retro game console options? How do you play your old games? I find it way easier to emulate than it is to plug in my old consoles and boot those things up. Anyway, leave it in the comments below, at me on Twitter, all this other social media garbage. Izzy's got a whole bunch of videos on portable consoles. He's the whole reason why Nintendo won't stop making games for the 3DS. So check out his channel, and don't forget to check out his video or videos on the GPD XD also.
As you can tell, I spend a lot of my time and energy and money in portable retro gaming. So if you dig that kind of content, check me out. I talk about this a lot, maybe too much.
Anyway, we got new videos and live streams all of the time. Here's our schedule right here. We got Wulff Den Live every single Wednesday, which is our live podcast where we talk to you. And of course, the most important things that you can do is subscribe and share this video with a friend who loves their retro games, but maybe doesn't have a way to play their retro game library this easily. Thank you guys very much. You have yourselves a very good week, yeah?